Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for August 2nd. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we'll be having significant impacts to parts of the Great Basin. First, today, we'll see an increase in winds ahead of a cold front over western and northern Nevada into Idaho and Wyoming, starting today with wind gusts between 30 and 35 miles per hour across Nevada, and stronger winds up across Idaho with southwest to west wind gusts between 40 and 45 miles per hour at times, with relative humidity between 8 and 12%. Also, behind this cold front, these winds will be shifting to the northwest and north across Idaho and Nevada and be pushing further south into Utah as we move into Wednesday. And these winds will also continue during the overnight periods and even increase over northern Utah and southern Idaho early Wednesday morning. Also, ahead of this front, we'll continue to see scattered or isolated thunderstorms across parts of east central Nevada into northern Utah and Wyoming, and these thunderstorms will be moving fairly quickly and be on the drier side. Therefore, we'll have an increased risk of fire potential. Further south, thunderstorms will continue, but will be quite wet. We'll also see a return of moisture from the south over parts of northern and central Nevada on Thursday, and this will push up into Idaho by Friday, and this may increase fire potential again, as these thunderstorms would be a mix of wet and dry. If we look at the last 24 hours, we did have lightning mainly across southern and eastern half of Utah, and also some lightning back across parts of eastern and central Nevada. These thunderstorms across the Arizona Strip up into southern Utah and far eastern Nevada were wet, with several areas reporting some flash flooding, and some areas over southern Utah and the Arizona Strip seeing precipitation amounts over 1 or 2 inches. Over the last 24 hours, the new fires are shown in the red circles, and mainly are smaller fires across parts of eastern Nevada up into Utah and Idaho. If we look at the last 14 to 30 days, we've seen very dry conditions over the last 2 weeks across Idaho into northern Utah and all of northern, western, and parts of central Nevada with no precipitation. And even over the last 30 days, we've seen these very dry conditions over western and northern Nevada into Utah with below normal precipitation elsewhere across the Great Basin, with the exception of parts of southern Utah over the last 2 to 4 weeks, as we had some monsoon moisture which pushed some areas to near normal or even slightly above. Looking at current ERC conditions, we have a significant decrease in ERCs across the southern portion of the Great Basin due to the moisture that's been in place. However, further north, ERCs are very high and above the 90th or 97th percentile in most areas. Now looking at the water vapor satellite loop from this morning, we see moisture still in place across Arizona and southern and eastern Utah for another day of generally wet thunderstorms. Further north and west, we have much drier air across the rest of the Great Basin, and out ahead of this area of low pressure in the northwest, we're starting to see some showers and isolated thunderstorms develop from northeast Nevada into southern Idaho. This threat will push further east, anywhere from eastern Nevada up across northern Utah, southeast Idaho, and western Wyoming today for a risk of drier lightning. Otherwise, as this cold front moves towards the Great Basin, we'll see winds increase over much of the northern half of the area, both this afternoon and tonight, along with a wind shift behind the cold front and some cooler temperatures across Idaho. Today we will see increased significant fire potential across Idaho into northern and western Nevada as the winds increase ahead of the cold front with low relative humidity, and also still a risk of more isolated drier lightning over parts of eastern Nevada into northern Utah, southeast Idaho, and Wyoming, as thunderstorms will be faster moving ahead of the cold front. Further south, any thunderstorms will be wet with lower fire potential, although we'll continue to see initial attack. Today, the lowest relative humidity will be over the northern half of the Great Basin and down into the single digits. Again, the image on the right is showing the threat of the wind today across Idaho into northern Nevada, with the strongest winds across Idaho where gusts between 35 and 45 miles per hour will occur at times. Further south and west, gusts will remain between 30 and 35 miles per hour. On Wednesday, we'll see this low pressure system move well to the east, pushing the cold front into parts of northern Utah and central Nevada. This will suppress the lightning on Wednesday to mainly the southern half of Utah and to southern Nevada, and these will remain wet. However, near and behind the cold front will still remain gusty winds and low relative humidity despite some cooler temperatures across Idaho, Wyoming, and into northern Utah on Wednesday. Relative humidity again will remain in the single digits to low teens in the north, and again this wind threat is shown on the right. Looking at Thursday, the trough of low pressure is now well off to the east, but we have another low developing off the west coast, and this will allow for southerly winds to push moisture north again on Thursday into parts of central and eastern Nevada, and these thunderstorms over these areas in the northern part of Nevada will be a mix of wet and dry, with wetter storms further south and east. Therefore, we may see increased fire potential across parts of northern Nevada on Thursday. Relative humidity will remain in the single digits in those areas and will be increasing over eastern and southern Nevada as that moisture spreads north with a better chance of wetter thunderstorms. The areas of thunderstorms are shown on the right. The overall amount of precipitation over the next 3 days is again mainly confined to southern portion of Utah into southeast and southern Nevada, where we could see over an inch of precip over the next 3 days in several areas, especially across southern Utah. However, as we get into Thursday and that moisture pushes north, we'll see some measurable precipitation across the northern part of the Ely district, possibly even into Elko. As we move into Friday, this lightning threat pushes north across far northern Nevada into Idaho, and again on this northern and western side, across southwest Idaho into far northern Nevada, we still have the risk of the mixed wet and dry thunderstorms in areas where fuels are very critical. Further south and east, we will see some moistening up of the fuels, especially over eastern Nevada into Utah as these storms transition to wetter. However, as we move through the weekend, we will see an increase in southwest flow with some breezy winds and also dryness moving across the Great Basin, even across Utah as we get later in the weekend into early next week. We will likely see dry conditions across the Great Basin, so even areas across Utah will be drying out. The overall amount of precipitation over the next 7 days, this area over southern Utah and southern Nevada is mainly in the next 3 days. However, again, further north, we will see some measurable precip into Idaho and Wyoming and northern Utah, especially as we get towards Friday and Saturday. However, still that western edge will be a mix of wet and dry storms. As we look into the 8 to 14 day outlook taking us to the middle of August, we'll likely see near normal temperatures across most of the Great Basin with slight warming in the south, however below normal precipitation as we see troughs move in, which would again lead to breezier winds. That concludes our briefing today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.